Welcome to Reddit Aliens. Who is the most evil person you have ever met? Posted one day ago. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. My school friend's stepdad. He was violent even when friends visited her. One time he threatened us all, my friend, her sisters, and her mom with a huge knife. Luckily, we were able to leave the apartment unharmed. When she was 14, it came out that he had sexually abused her for 2 years. That man is an effing monster, and I hope he'll burn in hell. Bastard is out of jail already thanks to my country's shitty justice system. Ronnie Lee Gardner. He killed a bartender in a robbery gone wrong, then had his girlfriend sneak a gun into a courthouse and shot and killed an attorney. I was a court security officer during one of his death penalty appeals. I didn't technically meet him, but was in court with him. That man just radiated evil. Former stepdad. Mom filed for divorce and had the papers served as she got on a plane to England from America, so my stepdad couldn't find her. My stepdad's brother called my mom after a hunting trip and begged her to leave him, as he spent the entire trip discussing how he was going to kill my mom and hide the body. Unfortunately, my former stepdad's brother died before he could file a police report. My aunt's ex-husband. He sexually assaulted her daughter from the time she was 6 until she got her first period, because then she was too old for him. My husband, who she looks to like a big brother, helped put together the police statement and helped her prepare for court. He's a stereotypical emotionally repressed bloke who has seen some shit in his life, and every time he helped her out, he would not only cry like a baby, but had nightmares for a week. I don't know the details, so don't ask. And I don't want to know. A South African ex-police officer. He boasted about killing suspects by dropping them out of helicopters over the sea or shooting them point blank when they were caught, instead of arresting them. I had a student who beat his girlfriend, his mother, and his sisters, showed absolutely no remorse, threatened his female teachers. The kid was an effing psychopath. He dropped out after getting suspended a bunch of times, probably in prison or dead now. I know a guy who murdered his girlfriend and chopped her up because she found out he was actually married to my friend and had a kid and another on the way. He's in prison now. My first ex-husband. It wasn't just a matter of he cheated, though he did that too. He was abusive to me and tried to kill my son. Can't think of him as our son. He went to prison, and when he was out, he continued the same pattern of behavior with other women and children. He went to prison again. Not sure what he's doing now, but I can guess. In prison. My ex-wife. I've never met anyone that thrived on conflict like she did. I had to constantly walk on eggshells around her and be hyper aware of her moods. It took years of therapy to undo the webs that she spun in my mind. The most evil person I ever encountered was a nurse assigned to the oncology floor at the Valley Hospital in Ridgewood, New Jersey. My recently departed wife was being treated for leukemia, and she was unfortunate to be one of her patients. My wife had also a pulmonary fibrosis, experienced difficulties with breathing for years and years, and had irregular blood oxygen levels. This nurse came on duty, administered medication, took vitals, and placed a blood oxygen measuring device on my wife's finger. This nurse told my wife what her temperature and blood pressure was, but refused to tell my wife the blood oxygen level and began administering oxygen. Having pulmonary fibrosis for many years, my wife understood blood oxygen levels. There was a nasal cannula and oxygen mask available, and the nurse chose the oxygen mask. My wife pulled the mask away and politely asked what her blood oxygen level was. The nurse told my wife to shut up, climbed onto the bed, knelt on her, forced the mask on her face, and pinned my wife's arms beneath her knees. I had to run to the nurses' station to get help. Nurses at the Valley Hospital in Ridgewood, New Jersey are all walking piles of shit. They saw her kneeling on my wife, but each denied seeing it. As a defense attorney, I've met my share of murderers, assailants, grifters, thieves, and thugs. The one who sticks in my brain, who I think about at least once a week and shudder, who just makes my skin crawl, knowing that this is someone who walks the same earth as me and my loved ones, was a guy who sexually abused his fiance's 7-year-old daughter. His was the only case I ever had to make me want to walk out of the courthouse and quit my job. Working in a prison several years ago, I met a lot of men who might be considered evil to you, but the fact is very few are inherently evil. But one young man was so manipulative and calculating, his family stopped being his victim. When I first met him, I thought he was a funny if misguided young man, with potential for being released and never coming back. I placed him in appropriate rehabilitative programs that he completed with high reviews, but like most people who were fooled by this guy, it was his ability to say what you wanted to hear and not true change that he mastered. Originally incarcerated for drug offenses and armed robbery of his younger brother's business, the completion of a certain intensive cognitive behavioral therapy program knocked 2 years from his time to serve. No one in his immediate family would have him stay with them, but in the state where I was working at the time, an offender could not be released without approved residence. It could be a spot on someone's floor, but it had to be approved. This is getting long, so let's fast forward. The man's elderly grandmother called offering a place to stay. It was ideal since she had plenty of room and was close to transportation and employment opportunities for him. We spoke by phone a few times to ensure she was ready, but within 2 weeks' time, he violated parole by using drugs, associating with felons, assault against the same brother he had wronged previously, stealing from his grandmother's home and garage, etc., resulting in county jail and returning to prison. This time, he was ineligible for most programs, but of course he blamed me and the system instead of taking responsibility. When his release approached, every member of his family denied him a place to stay, and his poor grandmother was heartbroken that she couldn't trust him. She called begging that we didn't give him her new address and phone number. He has since returned to prison in a neighboring state with a long time before he is eligible for release. Please don't get me wrong. I know many people who were released and have done well with the proper help and determination. But when someone acts against those who love him most, again and again, with little if any remorse, evil plays a part. Not as some vile entity, but as a mindset. My rapist, also known as my cousin, my dad's nephew. When I was 10, my dad committed suicide in the house my mom, siblings, and I used to live in. My mom made us leave him. He was like a best friend to me, taught me how to skateboard, was funny, and accepted me for who I was. My only hope now was my cousin, call him Richard. Richard and I have been best friends since I was born. He was 3 years older, and he was the only person I thought that could help me. I slept over at his house the night before my dad's funeral with my younger brother. I was raped that night by him while my brother slept right next to us. The next day I was traumatized, and it didn't help that it was my dad's funeral. Richard comes up to me and hugs me, acting like he didn't do anything. Then he says to me, "If you tell anyone, I'll kill myself, just like how your dad did. It would be all your fault." And for the next 4 years, Richard sexually abused me. After he said that sentence at my dad's funeral till I was 14, I thought I was the reason my dad killed himself. When I came out about what he did, his dad believed him over me, and now they're both sending my family and I death threats, and the police won't do anything. My former friend's mom, she drinks all day, spends her husband's money, and is a selfish narcissist. She injured her leg years ago working at a troubled youth clinic. A bad kid attacked her for no reason, but the more I grew to know her and saw how cruel she was, I believe she said something very hurtful and is also milking government money with her injury. My friend's boyfriend suffered a freak accident and almost died. While he was in the hospital, they got a dog to help him with his recovery. Fast forward to them breaking up. He kept the dog and she traveled the country for a few months. They were still friendly. He asked her to watch his dog while family with an aggressive dog came to visit. She agreed. Then the mom refused to give the dog back. She was now living with the mom post-breakup. It wasn't in his name, so he had no merit to get the dog back, beside massive court fees. She took a stroke survivor support dog from him, LOL. I felt so bad for him. He talked with attorneys and they said they can get the dog back for sure, but it would be pricey, and she will be vengeful. He ended up having to get another dog. What a bitch. My brother. He has been assaulting his girlfriend and gaslighting them since he was 15. They come to me when they're fully broken because he's told them I'm wealthy and a monster and out to get him, so they think I can help. I get to hear about how he rapes them, hurts them, and threatens to sick the Masons on them. My parents covered him for years, but Now they're both dead. He's been accused of it on Twitter. He's TikTok and Twitter famous, and he just turns around and says that he was abused and groomed, etc., though I know it's not true. I'm NC, but he continually tries to contact me. Someone from my school bragged about killing animals for fun, and one of my friends told me he once started showing people pictures of mutilated dead animals that he claimed to be responsible for. He killed animals like turtles, snakes, all sorts of rodents, and lots of bugs too, but still in an effed up, torturous way. I don't know if he was evil as opposed to just an effed up person, but I always felt really uncomfortable around him. Hands down, the mother of one of the girls that bullied me when I was a child. Her daughter treated a lot of kids like hell, and her mother not only didn't do anything about it, but actively encouraged her into keeping the act up and partook in it, either by actively laughing at the kids being mistreated or by scolding them if they tried to defend themselves from her daughter. I almost blame her for my traumas more than her daughter should. It's a toss-up between my ex-husband and my mother-in-law. Both are truly just not good people. My ex is a liar and an abuser. His current wife is leaving him and says to their daughter that she now knows and understands what I was trying to tell her years ago. He has no regard for anyone. Their daughter has come out as gay. She's 16, so he's not even spoken to her in a month. Daughter says there are many times the police should have been called on him. He's one of those ones that'll hit the wall next to you, leaving holes, shake you, and say it didn't happen, or that you made him do it, or, my favorite, that he loves you so much that he got mad. He's also a cheater. For someone, while pregnant, while we were married. He's got 5 kids across 3 baby moms that we know of. Mother-in-law is hugely manipulative and a bigot. She's terrible. There was a Catholic priest whom my parents knew. Besides being a priest, he gave piano lessons to many little girls. It turned out he was also touching them inappropriately during the lessons. I believe the Catholic Church moved him to a different city where he was accused again and eventually put away for his crimes. My mother. She told me on my son's first birthday that because my husband and I had to move away for cancer treatment and she couldn't see my child daily, she was just going to end her life and it was all my fault. An hour later, I got a video call from her in the ambulance saying she told me she was going to kill herself and hung up. My grandfather, Cary Hook, legit uncaught serial killer. He died of MS 6 years ago, at like 66 only, but my mom witnessed him on 2 of the killings, reported him to the police, but because of his connections with the police department in the 80s, they wouldn't pursue it. He raped her and got her pregnant as punishment. She had to run away and get an abortion. Then he tried hunting her down for many years. He was not shy to admit these things, and when he died, he actually wrote the locations of a few bodies in Wisconsin and Michigan, and they in fact found them. The scariest thing is, no one took my poor mom seriously all these years until after the SOB died. Guy was very, 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 very evil man, and sadly, never got caught while he was alive. My dad's brother. I don't remember meeting him in living memory because he got cut off from my family when I was pretty young, probably around 6 years old. He used to live above us in my childhood home from birth to around 7 years old, and by all accounts was a nasty piece of work. I've heard stories of him beating his father with a cutlass as he was dying, constantly beating his wives or girlfriends, pushing my dad down a flight of concrete stairs after a small argument, which was about, if my memory serves me correctly, him making too much noise, smearing his own shit on our front door, amongst other things, which my parents don't wish to disclose. And if that wasn't bad enough, at the funeral for my cousin's stepmother in 2019, I found out that he had raped another one of my cousins as a child. As heartbreaking and disturbing as it was to hear that, it didn't surprise me, considering I have several memories of him sitting at his kitchen window and staring at my twin brother and I playing outside in the garden whilst doing what I later realized was masturbating. After spending years in therapy for unrelated reasons, I started having flashbacks of being sexually abused as a child in that same house. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest to find out that he was the culprit, if these flashbacks are indeed true. Last I heard, he moved out of the area and is battling some sort of illness, but I honestly couldn't give 2 Fs. 1986. I was at a concert, a junior in high school, met a guy near me, we exchanged numbers. He He was a little bit older than me, and at the time I thought that was cool. We talked on the phone, he wrote letters, he started to pressure me to get together. He set up a whale watching trip hours away from where I lived. It was already feeling like too much too soon, too much pressure. As any good girl, I was raised to be nice, wouldn't want to hurt his feelings or inconvenience him. In the end, my inner voice was telling me to not go, so I backed out. To say that he went ballistic is an understatement. He was the first person to call me a "see you next Tuesday," as well as a whore for leading him on. I told him I didn't feel comfortable going so far away. I felt like his date was isolating and that I wasn't ready to do that. He harassed me by phone and by letter for months. I was too scared to tell my parents because he had been warned not to give out my phone number. I was scared he was going to come hurt me. I felt like I dodged a bullet and that if I had gone, something would have happened to me. I'm sure that he has hurt people in his lifetime. I threw away all his letters, so I don't know his name.